Right, hello everyone. Here we go for some more of our favorite time of day. Study time, hangout time, discussion time. Make sure the sound's working time. You know the drill. So let's do that real quick and then we'll get into it. And I'm wishing and hoping everybody is having a wonderful day today. Hopefully it's as beautiful where you're at as it is where I'm at. But it looks like we got some rain in the forecast, but to me, that's still a win. Okay, sound, come on, catch up with us. That's still a win. Okay, very good. His sound is working and his class is beginning. So what's everybody? What's up, everybody? This is Jay Balvale, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to a class A study. We're right now in Class A. Some of you know, but maybe you're new, and so you don't know. We're studying this text here, Éliphas Lévi's Transcendental Magic. It's Doctrine and Ritual. And today is going to be a pretty fun one. We're going to learn a little bit more about the magical chain, as Éliphas Lévi puts it. But he has well, I don't know. Maybe what do some of you think? Once your goddess, welcome in. I hope you're having a great day. When you hear about something like a magical chain, what comes to mind? What are some of the thoughts that enter your head when you hear that type of a phrase used in terms of magic and occult sciences, esotericism, what have you, mysticism? I mean, those things are all same but diff. They go hand in hand a bit. Okay, music, chat pulled up. Once your goddess says a chain of magic. I like that one. Very good. Very good. And Tyson Tamut says, do a backflip in the name of magic. All right, then. I will. I just did it. Did you see? Okay, you guys. So I'm going to need to turn that light on over my shoulder again. And then we'll start it up like usual. Welcome in to everybody just coming in. Happy Tuesday, or happy whenever you might encounter this stream. All right, light on, check. Trying to tiptoe around because if I wake that cat up, oh no. Oh no, she's going to start howling. And Tyson Tamut says, don't tell me that was the magic. What, the backflip? I did it. I did it. You just didn't see it done because I did it so super fast, like lightning. Okay, everyone. So, once your goddess, though, very good guess, a chain of magic. Well, that is a good way to describe a magical chain. I like that one. That's funny. All right, you guys. Just cleaning a couple things out of my way real quick. Tarot cards everywhere. Because sometimes I'll pull some for myself and then I'll sit there and stare at them for a few days straight to try to see what all they might be trying to tell me that I might not be paying attention to. And Just Bride says EEE666. Well, seems like you're in the right place. All right then, everybody. So speaking of 666 and devilry and all of that, let's see what the tarot is going to tell us on this beautiful Tuesday as we get ready to dive into chapter 11 of both the Doctrine and Ritual of Transcendental Magic. What is going to be a useful card to have in the front or back of our minds as we see what it is Éliphas Lévi has to say about magical chain, magical currents, etc. All right, let's do one more shuffle and pull it. Cut the deck. It's this card right here. It is, it's the High Priestess. Oh, it's the Ace of Wands again. No, dang. Ooh, okay, though. 7 of Cups. Well, this card just looks nasty. I can't remember if we pulled this one. I know we've definitely pulled 8 of Cups. I don't know if we've pulled 7 of Cups yet on this stream. But as you can see, that water, that great sea, it looks sick. It looks like it's been drinking too much. That's one way I interpret this card. You're drinking too much. Or maybe you're just indulging in things you shouldn't be too much. 7, this is a double hit of Venus because it's Netzach on the Tree of Life, but also it's Venus in Scorpio. So we can see those flowers there that are usually pouring the water into the cups. They're all turned down and feeling sick or feeling, sick's probably the best way. Exhausted, maybe a little bit. Maybe even you could say poisoned, but that kind of goes along with sick. And yep, it's just spitting that nasty water right back into the nastiness. Debauch or debauchery. Maybe some of you have been being a little debaucherous so far this week, or maybe in the last week or two. Like I said, you're drinking too much, you're smoking too much, you're fighting with your friends or your family or your significant other too much, your kids. Maybe your kids are making you sick because they keep leaving a mess all around the house. I don't know. But if we look at it more in those Venus type of ways, that 7 on the Tree of Life, your creative projects, they're stressing you out right now. They're keeping you in that nasty predicament. Your work, maybe, or your home life. Either way, the thing that normally gives you pleasure is starting to make you feel a little sick. Okay, well, that is going to go, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of connectivity to what we're going to read today as far as that message goes. On the one hand, so let's go ahead and get into it, though, so we can see how else that might pop up. Oh, not that one yet, this one now. All right, looking good. Okay, so chapter 11. Cough, wait a minute. Did he have 2 Ks? I swear the last one he had a K on it too on that Yod. What is he doing? Levy. Yeah, he did. That one should have been a J. H-I-J, right? Yep, H-I. So that one would have been correct, but that must be some type of typo in the book. Why he has 2 Ks. Because Kabbalah, the chapter on Kabbalah, yep, he had a K. But J comes before K in the English alphabet for any of you who still aren't very good at the English language. Now this one, though, would be correct because Kaf would be a K in Hebrew. All right, 11, Kaf, K, and there's a note. The number 11 is that of force. It is therefore that of contest, and so also of martyrdom, from La Clef de Grand Mystery. The magic chain, Manus, force. The great magical agent, by us termed the astral light, by others the soul of the earth, and designated by old chemists under the names of azoth and magnesia, this occult, unique, and indubitable force is the key of all empire, the secret of all power. It is the winged dragon of Medea, the serpent of the Edenic mystery. It is the universal glass of visions, the bond of sympathies, the source of love, prophecy, and glory. To know how to make use of this agent is to be the trustee of God's own power. All real, effective magic, all occult force is there, and its demonstration is the sole end of all genuine books of science. And then there's a note on that saying the following variation offers some new elements. The universal light is called astral light when it magnetizes worlds. When metals are formed, thereby, it is termed azoth, otherwise mercury of the sages, but when it communicates life to animals, it should be denominated animal magnetism, from La Clef de Grand Mystery. And so that kind of goes with what Swami Prabhupada is telling us in our Class B right now on the easy journey to other planets. The universal light is called astral light when it magnetizes worlds. So the material and anti-material worlds, right? That's the bridge, baby. That's the rainbow bridge right there. To have control of the great magical agent, there are two operations necessary: to concentrate and project, or in other words, to fix and move. Fixity has been provided as the basis and guarantee of movement by the author of all things. The magus must go to work in like manner. It is said that enthusiasm is contagious. And why? Because it cannot be produced in the absence of rooted faith. Faith produces faith. To believe is to have a reason for willing. To will with reason is to will with power. I do not say with an infinite, but an indefinite power. What operates in the intellectual and moral world obtains still more in the physical. And when Archimedes was in want of a lever to move the world, he was seeking simply the great magical arcanum. One arm of the androgyne figure of Henry Kunrath bore the word coagula and the other solve. And so we see that. We'll look at the cover again real quick. So for anybody who isn't familiar with that image of Baphomet, most people think that this is just Satan, the devil. I mean, we do see him interpreted that goat-headed way a bit, but this is really an image of alchemizing. So you can see even there where we've got the crescent moon, the light moon up top, the dark moon down low. So that right there is the rainbow bridge in one interpretation. And on his arms, Salve, and on the other one, Coagula. Okay, so he says, to collect and diffuse are nature's two words. But after what manner can we accomplish these operations on the astral light or soul of the world? Concentration is by isolation and distribution by the magical chain. Isolation consists in absolute independence of thought, complete liberty of the heart, and perfect continence of the senses. Every man who is obsessed by prejudices and fears, every passionate person who is slave of his passions, is incapable of concentrating or coagulating, according to the expression of Kunrath, the astral light or soul of the earth. All true adepts have been independent even amidst torture, sober and chaste unto death. The explanation of such anomaly is this: in order to dispose of a force, you must not be surprised by this force in a way that it may dispose of you. But then will exclaim those who seek only in magic for a method of inordinately satisfying the lusts of nature. Of what avail is power which must not be used for your own satisfaction? Right, exactly, right? Everybody wants to get rich, get laid with magic. Well, if you stick around long enough, you'll realize a couple things. And Josue Yara, what's up? Good to see you again. I hope you're having a good day. Unhappy creatures who ask, if I told you, how should you understand? Are pearls nothing because they are worthless to the horde of Epicurus? Did not Curtius prefer the government of those who had gold rather than its possession by himself? Must we not be a little removed from the common man when we almost pretend to be God? Moreover, I grieve to deject or discourage you, but I am not inventing the transcendental sciences. I teach them, defining their immutable necessities in the presentation of their primary and most inexorable conditions. Pythagoras was a free, sober, and chaste man. Apollonius of Tyana and Julius Caesar were both of repellent austerity. The sex of Paracelsus was suspected, so foreign was he to the weakness of love. Raymond Lully carried the severities of life to the most exalted point of asceticism. Jerome Cardan exaggerated the practice of fasting till he nearly perished of starvation, if we may accept tradition. Agrippa, poor and buffeted from town to town, almost died of misery rather than yield to the caprice of a princess who insulted the liberty of science. What then made the happiness of these men? The knowledge of great secrets and the consciousness of power. And Josue Yara says, go ahead. I will be there in about 5 minutes to leave. All right, then. That sounds wonderful. And Ramin Zamini, welcome. Says, for more information, you're welcome. Well, thank you very much. Okay. It was sufficient for those exalted souls. Must one be like unto them in order to know what they knew? Assuredly not, and the existence of this book is perhaps a case in point. But in order to do what they did, it is absolutely necessary to take the means which they took. Yet, what did they actually accomplish? They astonished and subdued the world. They reigned more truly than kings. Magic is an instrument of divine goodness or demoniac pride, but it is the annihilation of earthly joys and the pleasures of mortal life. Why study it? Ask the luxurious. In all simplicity, to know it, and possibly after to learn to mistrust of stupid unbelief or puerile credulity. Men of pleasure, and half of these I count for so many women, is not gratified curiosity highly pleasurable? Read, therefore, without fear. You will not be magicians against your will. Readiness for absolute renunciation is, moreover, necessary only in order to establish universal currents and transform the face of the world. There are relative magical operations limited to a certain circle which do not need such heroic virtues. We can act upon passions by passions, determine sympathies or antipathies, hurt even and heal without possessing the omnipotence of the magus. In this case, however, we must realize the risk of a reaction in proportion to the action, and to such risk we may fall easily a victim. All this will be explained in our ritual. To make the magic chain is to establish a magnetic current which becomes stronger in proportion to the extent of the chain. We shall see in the ritual how such currents can be produced and what are the various modes of forming the chain. Mesmer's Tro was a chain of an exceedingly imperfect kind. Settle down, settle down. You're okay. Spring fever gets those animals going. All right, and there's a footnote there anyway saying Mesmer rediscovered and did not invent the secret science of nature. That first unique and elementary substance to which he testifies in his aphorisms was known by Hermes and Pythagoras. It was celebrated by Synesius in his hymns, and he had found it among the Platonic reminiscences of the Alexandrian school, from La Clef de Grand Mystery. Several great circles of Illuminati in different northern countries possess others more potent. Illuminati. Even that association of Catholic priests, celebrated for their occult power and their unpopularity, is established upon the plan and follows the conditions of the most potent magical chains. Oh, yeah. When's the last time you've been to a Catholic Mass? Well, if you've been studying and practicing magic for a while, I certainly encourage you to go to one, especially if you've got a really nice cathedral in town. Because if nothing else, those cathedrals are super gorgeous. But yep, as you watch the Mass, you will realize, oh yeah, this is straight up magic. Okay. Oh, and let's see. Pussy Hunter 880. What's up? Welcome. He says, "Yo boy." Well, yo indeed. I hope you're having a good day. That's a funny name. Ha. Well, we know what he's here for. Okay, herein is the secret of their force, which they attribute solely to the grace or will of God. A vulgar and easy solution for every mystery of power in influence or attraction. In the ritual, it will be our task to estimate the sequence of truly magical ceremonies and evocations which constitute the great work of vocation under the name of the exercises of Saint Ignatius. All enthusiasm propagated in a society by a scheme of intercourse and fixed practices in common produces a magnetic current and is maintained or increased by the current. The action of the current is to transport and often to exalt beyond measure persons who are impressionable and weak, nervous organizations, temperaments inclined to hysteria or hallucination. Such people soon become powerful vehicles of magical force and project efficiently the astral light in the direction of the current itself. Opposition at such a time to the manifestations of the force is, to some extent, a struggle with fatality. When the youthful Pharisee Saul or Shoal threw himself with all the fanaticism and all the obs- obstinacy of a sectarian across the line of advancing Christianity, he placed himself unconsciously at the mercy of a power against which he thought to prevail, and he was struck down by a formidable magnetic flash, doubtless the more instantaneous by reason of the combined effect of cerebral congestion and sunstroke. The conversion of the young Israelite Alphonsus of Ratisbon is a contemporary fact, which is absolutely of the same nature. We are acquainted with a sect of enthusiasts whom it is common to deride at a distance and to join despite oneself as soon as they are approached, even with a hostile intention. I will go further and affirm that magical circles and magnetic currents establish themselves and have an influence according to fatal laws upon those whom they act. Each one of us is drawn within a sphere of relations which constitutes his world and to the influence of which he is made subject. The lawgiver of the French Revolution, that man whom the most spiritual nation in the world acknowledged as the incarnation of human reason, Jean Jacques Rousseau, was drawn into the most lamentable action of his life, the desertion of his children, by the magnetic influence of a libertine circle and a magical current of table d'hote. He describes it simply and ingeniously in his Confessions, but it is a fact which has remained unobserved. Great circles very often make great men, and vice versa. There are no unrecognized geniuses, there are eccentric men, and the term would seem to have been invented by an adept. The man who is eccentric in his genius is one who attempts to form a circle by combating the central attractive force of established chains and currents. It is his destiny to be broken or to succeed. Now, what is the twofold condition of success in such a case? A central point of stability and a persistent circular action of initiative. The man of genius is one who has discovered a real law and is possessed thereby of an invincible active and directing force. He may die in the midst of his work, but that which he has willed comes to pass in spite of his death, and is indeed often ensured thereby, because death is a veritable assumption for genius. When I shall be lifted up from the earth, said the greatest of the initiators, I will draw all men after me. And Ramin Zamini says, oh, nice. Bin aus Deutschland und den Buch. All right, I can't read all of that. It says, I'm from Germany and I find your book so interesting to read. Like the truth. Keep it up. Well, all right. Shout out to Germany. Glad to have you here. And I'm glad you're enjoying the book. Very cool. Hope you're having a good day as well, or a good evening by now, probably in Germany. It's probably nighttime for you. All right. The law of magnetic currents is that of the movement of the astral light itself, which is always double and augments in a contrary direction. A great action invariably paves the way for a reaction of equal magnitude, and the secret of phenomenal success consists entirely in the foreknowledge of reactions. Thus, did Chateaubriand penetrated with disgust at the Saturnalia of the Revolution, foresee and prepare the immense vogue of his genius of Christianity. To oppose oneself to a current at the beginning of its career is to court being destroyed by that current, like the great and unfortunate Emperor Julian. To oppose oneself to a current which has run its course is to take the lead of a contrary current. The great man is he who comes seasonably and knows how to innovate opportunely. In the days of the apostles, Voltaire would have found no echo for his utterances and might have been merely an ingenious parasite at the banquets of Trimalcion. Now, at the epoch wherein we live, everything is ripe for a fresh outburst of evangelical zeal and Christian self devotion, precisely by reason of the prevailing general dissolution, egoistic positivism, and public cynicism of the coarsest interests. The success of certain books and the mystical tendencies of minds are unequivocal symptoms of this widespread disposition. We restore and we build churches only to realize more keenly that we are void of belief, only to long more for it. Once again does the whole world await its Messiah, and he will not delay his advent. Let a man, for example, come forward who by rank or by fortune is placed in an exalted position, a pope, a king, even a Jewish millionaire, and let this man sacrifice publicly and solemnly all his material interests for the weal of humanity. Let him make himself the savior of the poor, the promulgator, and even the victim of doctrines of renunciation and charity, and he will draw around him an immense following. He will accomplish a complete moral revolution in the world, but the high place is before all things necessary for such a personage. Because in these days of meanness and trickery, any message issuing from the lower ranks is suspected of interested ambition and imposture. Ye, then, who are nothing, ye who possess nothing, aspire not to be apostles or messiahs. If you have faith and would act in accordance therewith, get possession, in the first place, of the means of action, which are the influence of rank and the prestige of fortune. In olden times, gold was manufactured by science. Nowadays, science must be renewed by gold. We have fixed the volatile, and we must now volatilize the fixed. In other words, we have materialized spirit, and we must now spiritualize matter. The most sublime utterance passes unheeded if it goes forth without the guarantee of a name, that is to say, of a success which represents a material value. What is the worth of a manuscript? That of the author's signature among the booksellers? The established reputation known as Alexander Dumas et Sierre represents one of the literary guarantees of our time. But the house of Dumas is in repute only for the romances which are its exclusive productions. Let Dumas devise a magnificent utopia or discover a splendid solution of the religious problem, and no one will take it seriously, despite the European celebrity of the panurge of modern literature. And Ramin Zamini says 22:15 right now. All right then. Oh yeah, you guys use a 24-hour clock. That's all right. That's how I keep the clock on mine, and mine says 14 right 19 right now. Okay. We are in the age of acquired positions where everyone is appraised according to his social and commercial standing. Unlimited freedom of speech has produced such a strife of words that no one inquires what is said, but who has said it. If it be Rothschild, His Holiness Pius IX, or even Monseigneur Dupanloup, it is something. But if it be Tartempion, it is nothing. Were he even, which is possible after all, an unrecognized prodigy of genius, knowledge, and good sense. Hence, to those who would say to me, if you possess the secret of great success and of a force which can transform the world, why do you not make use of them? I would answer, this knowledge has come to me too late for myself, and I have spent over its acquisition the time and the resources which might have enabled me to apply it. I offer it to those who are in a position to avail themselves thereof. Illustrious men, rich men, great ones of this world, who are dissatisfied with that which you have, who are conscious of a nobler and larger ambition, will you be fathers of a new world, kings of a rejuvenated civilization? A poor and obscure scholar has found the lever of Archimedes, and he offers it to you for the good of humanity alone, asking nothing whatsoever in exchange. The phenomena which quite recently have perturbed America and Europe, those of table turning and of fluidic manifestations, are simply magnetic currents at the beginning of their formation, appeals on the part of nature inviting us, for the good of humanity, to reconstitute great sympathetic and religious change. As a fact, stagnation in the astral light would mean destruction to the human race. Well, there could be our Seven of Cups right there, too, huh? Stagnation in the astral light, destruction to the human race. But maybe for you on a more personal level right now, that's a fitting card for us to pull up. Or even in the way he's already kind of pointed out that the way that this chain, this magic chain, aka this astral influence, this magical agent, um, can ultimately be good used for those more beautiful purposes of like a sphere like Netsack, those more beautiful creative purposes, or even for that nasty sickness. Okay, so as a fact, stagnation in the astral light would mean destruction to the human race. And torpor in this secret agent has already been manifested by alarming symptoms of decomposition and death. For example, cholera morbus, the potato disease, and the blight on the grape are traceable solely to this cause, as the two young shepherds of La Salette saw darkly and symbolically in their dream. The unlooked for credit which awaited their narrative, and the vast concourse of pilgrims attracted by a statement so singular and at the same time so vague as that of these two children, without instruction and almost without morality, are proofs of the magnetic reality of the fact and the fluidic tendency of the earth itself to operate the cure of its inhabitants. Superstitions are instinctive, and all that is instinctive is founded in the very nature of things, to which fact the skeptics of all times have given insufficient attention. It follows that we attribute the strange phenomena of table turning to the universal magnetic agent in search of a chain of enthusiasms with a view to the formation of fresh currents. Or how he's kind of pointing out here that you could use that for what more sleight of hand type of magic, more quick little trick type of magic, or for the type of magic that literally influences and changes the course of your family, your town, your country, your entire globe that you inhabit, the planet Earth. Okay. The force of itself is blind, but can be directed by the will of a man and is influenced by prevailing opinions. This universal fluid, if we decide to regard it as a fluid, being the common medium of all nervous organisms and the vehicle of all sensitive vibrations, establishes an actual physical solidarity between impressionable persons, and transmits from one to another the impressions of imagination and of thought. The movement of inert objects determined by undulations of the universal agent obeys the ruling impression and reproduces in its revelations at one time all the lucidity of the most wonderful visions, but at another all the eccentricity and falsehood of the most vague and incoherent dreams. The blows resounding on furniture, the clattering of dishes, the auto playing of musical instruments are illusions produced by the same cause. The miracles of the convulsionaries of Saint Medard were of the same order and seemed frequently to suspend the laws of nature. On the one hand, exaggeration produced by fascination, which is the special quality of delirium occasioned by congestions of the astral light. On the other, actual oscillations and movements impressed upon inert matter by the subtle and universal agent of motion and life. Such is the sole basis of these occurrences, which look so marvelous, as we may demonstrate easily at will by reproducing, in accordance with rules laid down in the ritual, the most astounding of such phenomena, and ascertaining, as can be done quite simply, the absence of trickery, hallucination, or error. It has occurred to me frequently, after experiments in the magic chain performed with persons devoid of good intention or sympathy, that I have been awakened with a start in the night by truly alarming impressions and sensations. And Dion Fortune definitely talked about this a bit as well. Since I know we got a lot of Dion Fortune fans that hang around in these groups. Die on fortune. Anybody ever heard them say it, people say it that way? Die on fortune. I don't know. Maybe it is die on fortune. Dion fortune. Potato potato. Huh? Who knows? Not me. On one such occasion, I felt vividly the pressure of an unknown hand attempting to strangle me. I rose up, lighted my lamp, and set calmly to work, seeking to profit by my wakefulness and to drive away the phantoms of sleep. The books about me were moved with considerable noise. Papers were disturbed and rustled one against another. Timber creaked as if on the point of splitting, and heavy blows resounded on the ceiling. With curiosity, but also with tranquility, I observed all these phenomena, which would not have been less wonderful had they been only the product of my imagination, so real did they seem. For the rest, I may state that I was in no sense frightened, and during their occurrence I was engaged upon something quite foreign to the occult sciences. By the repetition of similar phenomena, I was led to attempt an experience of evocation, assisted by the magical ceremonies of the ancients, when I obtained truly astounding results, which will be set forth in the 13th chapter of this work. Okay, so that magical chain, once you're goddess, you are right. It's a chain of magic. Magic in the great magical agent sense, the astral light sense, astral fluid, he says, if we may consider it a fluid. So now we'll flip back to the complementary chapter from the ritual portion of the book. And get to going on that. All right. So, chapter 11 of Ritual, the triple chain. The great work in practical magic, after the education of the will and the personal creation of the magus, is the formation of the magnetic chain, and this secret is truly that of priesthood and of royalty. To form the magnetic chain is to originate a current of ideas which produces faith and draws a large number of wills in a given circle of active manifestation. A well formed chain is like a whirlpool which sucks down and absorbs all. The chain may be established in three ways: by signs, by speech, and by contact. The first is by inducing opinion to adopt some sign as the representation of a force. Thus, all Christians communicate by the sign of the cross, Masons by that of the square beneath the sun, and Magi by that of the microcosm, made by extending the five fingers, etc. Once accepted and propagated, signs acquire force of themselves. In the early centuries of our era, the sight and making of the sign of the cross was enough to bring proselytes to Christianity. What is called the miraculous medal continues in our own days to affect a great number of conversions by the same magnetic law. The vision and illumination of the young Israelite Alphonse de Ratisbonne is the most remarkable fact of this kind. Imagination is creative not only within us, but without us by means of our fluidic projections. And undoubtedly, the phenomena of the labrum of Constantine and the cross of Migne should be attributed to no other cause. The magic chain of speech was typified among the ancients by chains of gold which issued from the mouth of Hermes. Nothing equals the electricity of eloquence. Speech creates the highest intelligence in the most grossly constituted masses. Even those who are too remote for actual hearing understand by sympathy and are carried away with the crowd. Peter the Hermit convulsed Europe by his cry of God wills it. A single word of the emperor electrified his army and made France invincible. Proudhon destroyed socialism by his celebrated paradox property is robbery. A current saying is sufficient on occasion to demolish a reigning power. Voltaire knew this well, he who shook the world by sarcasms. So also he who feared neither pope nor king, neither parliament nor Bastille was afraid of a pun. We are on the verge of fulfilling the intentions of that man whose sayings we repeat. Keep that in mind, huh? The third method of establishing the magic chain is by contact. Between persons who meet frequently, the head of the current soon manifests, and the strongest will is not slow to absorb the others. The direct and positive grasp of hand by hand completes the harmony of dispositions, and it is for this reason a mark of sympathy and intimacy. Children who are guided instinctively by nature form the magic chain by playing at the base or rounds. Playing at base or rounds. Then gaiety spreads, then laughter rings. Circular tables are more favorable to convivial meetings than those of any other shape. The great circular dance of the Sabbath, which concluded the mysterious assemblies of adepts in the Middle Ages, was a magic chain. It joined all in the same intentions and the same acts. It was formed by standing back to back and linking hands, the face outside the circle, an imitation of those antique sacred dances, representations of which are still found on the sculptures of old temples. The electric furs of the lynx, panther, and even domestic cat were stitched to garments in imitation of the ancient bacchanalia. Hence comes the tradition that the Sabbath miscreants each wore a cat hung from the girdle, and that they danced in this guise. The phenomena of tilting and talking tables have been fortuitous exhibitions of fluidic communication by means of the circular chain. Mystification combined with it afterwards, and even educated and intelligent persons were so infatuated with the novelty that they hoaxed themselves and became the dupes of their own absurdity. Oh man, becoming the dupe of your own absurdity. Well, maybe, just maybe, you might encounter that from time to time. Even if it's not in magic ways or in occult ways, you might just encounter that in like life in general with all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons. But especially when you start mixing in all this magical type of stuff. Oh yeah. Like that buddy of mine, oh man, he gets himself good, that's for sure. The oracles of the tables were answers more or less voluntarily suggested or extracted by chance. They resembled the conversations which we hold or hear in dreams. Other and stranger phenomena may have been exteriorized products of imaginations at work in common. We, however, by no means deny the possible intervention of elementary spirits in these occurrences, as in those divination by cards or by dreams. But we do not believe that it has been in any sense proven, and we are therefore in no way obliged to admit it. obliged to admit it. One of the most extraordinary powers of human imagination is the fulfillment of the desires of the will or even of its apprehensions and fears. We believe easily anything that we fear or desire, says a proverb, and it is true, because desire and fear impart to imagination a realizing power, the effects of which are incalculable. And some of you might remember, if you were a part of the art and practice of the contacting the demiurge study, or even the I think it was the creative visualization one, but maybe also the clairvoyance one of Ophiel, that he breaks that thing exactly down in the way that Yod He Vav He is actually a formula of manifestation. How is one attacked, for example, by a disease about which one feels nervous? Oh, yeah. And you ever experience that either with yourself or like a family or friend where they kind of had that hypochondriac thing and they were so worried about some type of certain sickness, and then sure enough, they got it and it got them good? We have cited already and that's why I bring up that friend from time to time, because that's exactly what he does with his paranoia about things like the Illuminati, the Freemason agenda, all of that nonsense. He buys into the BS, and so therefore he sees what he thinks is that thing going on. But let's just say I know people who have quite different experiences who aren't looking for that evil Illuminati Freemason agenda everywhere they look over their shoulder. Okay, we have cited already the opinions of Paracelsus on this point and have established in our doctrinal part certain occult laws confirmed by experience. But in magnetic currents and by mediation of the chain, the realizations are all the more strange because almost invariably unexpected, at least when the chain has not been formed by an intelligent, sympathetic, and powerful leader. In fact, they are the result of purely blind and fortuitous combinations. The vulgar fear of superstitious guests when they find themselves 13 at table, and their conviction that some misfortune threatens the youngest and weakest among them, is, like most superstitions, a remnant of magical science. The duodenary, being a complete and cyclic number in the universal analogies of nature, invariably attracts and absorbs the 13th, which is regarded as a sinister and superfluous number. If the grindstone of a mill be represented by the number 12, then 13 is that of the grain which is to be ground. On kindred considerations, the ancients established the distinctions between lucky and unlucky numbers, whence came the observance of days of good or evil augury. It is over such matters, above all, that imagination is creative, so that both days and numbers seldom fail to be propitious or otherwise to those who believe in their influence. Consequently, Christianity was right in prescribing the divinatory sciences, for in thus diminishing the number of blind chances, it gave further scope and empire to liberty. Printing is an admirable instrument for the formation of the magic chain by the extension of speech. No book is lost. As a fact, writings go invariably precisely where they should go, and the aspirations of thought attract speech. That's like what Swami Vivekananda said about any fool can have a library full of books, but he'll only read the ones that his karma deserves or allows him to read. We have proved this 100 times in the course of our magical initiation. The rarest books have offered themselves without seeking as soon as they became indispensable. Thus have we recovered intact that universal science which so many learned persons have regarded as engulfed by a number of successive cataclysms. Thus have we entered the great magical chain which began with Hermes or Enoch and will end only with the world. Thus have we been able to evoke and come face to face with the spirits of Apollonius, Plotinus, Synesius, Paracelsus, Cardanus, Cornelius Agrippa, and others less or more known, but too religiously celebrated to make it possible for them to be named lightly. We continue their great work, which others will take up after us. But unto whom shall it be given to complete it? Well, that's the question right there. That is the question. To whom? Okay, everybody. Well, that does it for today's study and reading of chapter 11 of the Doctrine and Ritual of Transcendental Magic. And now you've got a little more understanding as to the way the astral light and influence work. Tomorrow, we'll pick back up with this class where we'll get, what was it tomorrow? Let's see. The great work. Oh, yeah, the great work. Wonderful. That ought to be extra fun. I'm looking forward to it. But until then, I wish you a wonderful day. May these classes and these different studies be advantageous to you in your pursuits of magic, of spirituality, of life. I mean, what's more magical than life itself? Good question. Okay, well, that does it for today, though. And I appreciate you all. Ramin Zamini, welcome. It's great to have you here, as well as Josue Yar. Good to see you again. A couple of the others, I think, were just popping in for the quick little goofy. And once your goddess, of course, thank you as well. You're very welcome. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful night if you're in Germany or another part of the world where it's night, morning perhaps, whatever, wherever, whenever. I just hope it is beneficial to you in the ways that it is helping you to advance in this life. And until next time, much love, many blessings. This has been Jay Baldale, and this has been Éliphas Lévi's Transcendental Magic. Bye-bye.